coming to this session we will focus on data interchange formats, and we'll also take a live example that is going on nowadays. So we will take some data related to COVID-19, and then we'll try to process it, and we will create some exercises related to that, and then it will be nice to do such a assignment. Okay, so the reason that we are studying data interchange formats is because actually we can study some other parts of Python, such as regular expressions and exceptions and things like that, which will automatically come during the process of making this program. Okay, so why do we need JSON and why do we need XML? Is because we have an object here. So for example, if you want to send information about an instance, for example, there is a car, and there is a manufacturing unit where that manufacturing unit is just producing cars, and there are several different versions of car, and say manufacturing unit has one database, and there is a sales division which needs some information about certain cars produced in, say, last 3 months, and it wants some kind of statistics about each car. So what kind of car it is, how many cars are there, and about details about that particular car. So now the software that is running on on the sales side, or the marketing side, is completely different, and the software that is running on the manufacturing unit is completely different. Now you need to communicate from the manufacturing unit to sales unit. So you need to send information about every car. So how do we send that information in an organized way? um, is how we define data interchange formats. So that calls for a certain way to represent data, and then we can send. So so either we can send it in an Excel sheet. So Excel sheet, again, there is a lot of manual work. Like, if you send data about Excel sheet, and then people open it, and then they make their own slides and things like that. They do not work on softwares. They're just manually doing the job. Okay, so now, in case you want to communicate between two unrelated softwares, maybe they're related also. So so you need to communicate some information about instances of those objects. Say for example, there is a Maruti car, Maruti 800. So Maruti 800 has a certain design, and certain dimensions, and certain features, and that features needs to be communicated. Say, let us say engine is of say 800 800 ml. So we need to say that okay, this Maruti engine has this engine, and this engine has this capacity. So instead of, if you say, simply send a message, or a text saying that, okay, this is 800 ml, so the receiver won't understand which car this 800 belongs to. So he needs to kind of segregate it, and then find where this 800 fits. So instead of that, if I send the complete data, such as, okay, Maruti 800 is one object, and inside that there is an engine, and inside that this information is related to this one. So now when he says 800, then he looks up, okay, what section it belongs to. Okay, it belongs to engine, and from there, okay, this engine belongs to Maruti 800. So we have a hierarchy of information. So this hierarchy of information is represented in form of organized way. So these are also called as object notations. That means we can represent an object in simple text format. Okay, so another example, one of the things that Manju is doing. So what he is trying to do is he is trying to build some Adriano robots, and trying to do some interesting stuff. Say for example, your Adriano robot wants to get some data. Say for example, there is a competition, and in the competition, you get some kind of map data to find the way. So this the challenge is to solve the maze using boards. So in order to solve the boards, in order to solve this maze, what happens is, okay, either you can manually hard code the values into the Arduino, telling that okay, this is the maze and this is how the maze is structured and things like that. Either you can, it can be in a format of picture or whatever it is. So let us consider that this is an international competition, and then the mazes are actually released on a website or through an API. API is nothing but usually when we go to a website, say for example, um, this website, Wikipedia. Okay, so usually what happens is you see a fancy stuff here. That means there's a picture. A picture has a text, and then there is a text is very enriched, and it is put in a nice format. Okay, so this format is not actually what is sent to this browser, but this is a simple markup language text, which gets converted to this presentation. The presentation part is what browser does. Browser takes care of. So this is the page, and let us see what was sent to this browser, that is Google Chrome. So what was sent is this. So this is actually the raw data that gets converted to this one. Okay, so that means there is a way to communicate to browsers, telling that okay, this is this is not an API, this is just an URL, and when you hit that URL, this data gets dumped onto the browser, and browser automatically puts into certain format, and this format is called as HTML, hypertext markup language. Similarly, this is actually fixed. These keywords are fixed. So if you want to define your own tags, that is called as extensible markup language. So this is HTML. From there, we can also there is a format that you can define your own tags. These are all called tags: HTML, head, meta, title, script. All these are called as tags. They're similar to keywords that we use in Python, but it is for HTML. Okay, so this is how the data gets interchanged from a Wikipedia server to your browser. Okay, so similarly you can also send XML. So coming back to the challenge, so Arduino needs a map structure. So instead of sending this HTML data, so you can also simply send a simple picture, or you can also send something called as a JSON, which is Java's JavaScript object notation, which we'll learn. Say for example, I'll take an example of an API that we will use it in our assignment. So this example, okay, for example, this one. Okay, so this is this is also an URL. So when you hit this URL, instead of the HTML data, what you are getting is some text. So this text, imagine that this text is information about the map. So instead of hard coding the map inside your Arduino bot itself, what you do is you kind of log into this system. Automatically Arduino can connect to Wi-Fi, and from there it can call this API, and from say Python code, and then automatically get this output, and this output can be read in form of say maps, or in a certain data structure, and then you have a map automatically that is read into your Arduino bot, which is now trying to solve the maze problem. So if this is an international competition, maybe they're releasing the maps using some API. So these are all called as application programmable interfaces. Instead of HTML, if you send say JSON or something XML, for programs that needs the data. So this data, for example, Wikipedia data that we saw, is being consumed by humans. That means we are seeing it in a certain format, because we are used to this format. Say newspapers, and then textbooks, and then novels, all have certain similar structure. You have a section, subsection, and things like that. So that is human readable format. So in case if you want to put this kind of data in a structured format, we have some other structure called as object notations, which can be consumed by programs, and can be without much hassle. It can be consumed, and it can be split into different parts, and then data can be extracted and used for your own purposes. So that was another example. Okay, so instead of HTML, now we are using some kind of text data. So now we will learn about what are those objects. Okay, object notice. How is that object notation? How does that look like? Okay, so we learnt about HTML, and we learnt about XML. XML means it's a markup language. Markup language is nothing but it is the data is embedded inside two tags. That is like HTML. They're put inside two greater than symbol, and lesser than symbol, and then the data is inside that. So that is why it is called as markup language. So you are marking the data. So XML is also a markup language. So it is called as extensible markup language, because you can define your own tags. So that is why it's called as extensible markup language. So there is also JSON format, which is widely, you might have already seen it. So it is widely used. That is because the history is like, okay, when the when there were websites and all these things started, the server was being programmed in Java. So Java was a frontier in it was designed to actually do web server programming, and then also you could actually build applets into your browser. So it was developed for that purpose. Now people don't use applets. So and then in the front end, JavaScript was used, and then to communicate from the server to the browser, there were some kind of interchange formats. So that was called as JavaScript object notation. That means JavaScript can easily consume that part of text and put it in different slots, such as say if you are using a form, your name, address, and all these things can be easily put inside an object and then sent back to server, and from server you can also read it easily. So that was that was little bit about how the JavaScript object notation came into picture. Now it is just a name. Now everybody it doesn't matter which language you are using, because it's just a simple text file, and then any program can parse it, parse for the data. Okay, so that was about data interchange formats. So the idea, when the computers were initially formed, so there needs to be communication between two processes. So for to communicate with these two processes, there are different methodologies, such as you use a common memory, where one process dumps some information, and other process goes and reads it. So and then there is message queues, and there is also something called as a remote method invocation, and then communication between two different computers which are physically apart. Then there are sockets. That means the internet works on sockets. So these are the different kinds of inter-process communication. So the whole idea is, there is process running on one computer, another process is running on another computer. So they need to communicate. So to make this communication happen, we need to have certain standards. So there were a lot of different other ideas. So there were a lot of different interchange formats before, and now because of its simplicity, XML and JSON is widely used. And also there is one more interchange format called as YAML. So that is also used widely. So usually these things are used for automatic configuration, such as if you have, say, 100 robots, and 100 robots needs to be deployed at a time. So what you do is, from the PC, from one server, what you do is you kind of send a deploy command, and you send a configuration XML or JSON, and that will be consumed by all the robots, and the robots will be automatically configured, and it will come alive. So that is how, that is about the robots. And also in our projects, say, what we do is, there are a lot of base stations, and then it needs to be configured. So once you make a, say, once you make a network, say Airtel is buying some base stations and base station controllers and all that. So they buy in maybe hundreds and thousands. So it is difficult for engineer to go to every site and configure things. What we do is we do it remotely. So we send configuration say in form of XML or JSON, and then that gets automatically deployed. So these are the typical applications that data interchange formats are used. So that is about the background. So, so if you keep this in mind, then you won't forget why we are using this. Okay. So, and then coming to how do we relate to our example. Say, we'll create an example. Say for example, we have a dashboard, right? Every day the newspapers and news channels, they show dashboards telling that, okay, in India, in Karnataka, this many number of cases are reported, confirmed cases, active cases, deceased cases, and then such statistics are shown every day. Okay. So in order, say for example, to get this dashboard, there needs to be a way to get for softwares to read that data. Okay. So there is no person who is sending via mail or something. So they do it, they show it on website. From there, from government websites, all the people, they just grab that data and show it on their news channels, websites, and things like that. Okay. So let us consider this example. So we have India. It's a big object, large object. Inside India there are states. So for simplicity, I'm taking two states, Karnataka and Kerala. And let us take a couple of districts inside that. So Chikmagalur. So that means if I simply put Chikmagalur outside this box, the problem now is when we are trying to read that, okay, where does Chikmagalur belong to? So it's difficult for computers to understand where this Chikmagalur belongs to. Or if I simply take out Karnataka and Kerala out of the picture, then it is really difficult to. So the computer will understand that, okay, this is India. Maybe these are states, kind of understanding. Okay. So in order to put data in hierarchical structure, we do object inside object. So objects can contain objects inside that. So this is big object, this is sub object, and inside that there are smaller objects. So this is how we can relate. As humans, we can just see this and think that, okay, this is how the data is visualized. So this is like, maybe you're doing some data analysis back in the background, and generating this dashboard. So in order to do the data analytics or data processing in the background, we need to get some kind of ordered structured format to communicate, right? So we looked at that. So same data, how do we represent in form of JSON? So because JSON is not human readable, it is computer readable. That means computer can easily find out which object is inside which object. Say if I send this picture, so it's really difficult to for computers to understand this and get all the data. It is much simpler if you send it in the text format, and that text format should be in an organized, in an hierarchical form. So the same data, if I want to represent in form of text data, this is how it is represented. So these spaces are actually not necessary. We are just for simplicity, we can format it. So, but while sending through the network, so these spaces won't be there. We just send everything in a byte stream and in a text file. So formatting is just for our understanding purpose. Okay. So this is how we represent it. So if I want to see Chikmagalur, so it is under Karnataka and district data. Inside that there is this. So this is how the JSON looks like. So JSON will be usually they'll use colon to separate. This is actually key and value pairs. So this is key and this is whole dictionary is a value. Again, if you go inside the that dictionary, this is the key and this is the dictionary. Again, if you go, this is the key and this is the value. So you have a big dictionary. So this is a nested dictionary. That means there is a dictionary inside dictionary. So you're putting a box inside box and a box inside that box. So that is how this needs to be visualized. So the same data, exact same data, can be visualized in XML like this. So this is how it looks. So XML, as we looked, it is an extendable markup language. So marking means, so this tells that this is the root of the data. So this is formed in form of tree. So this is root and this is another node. So Karnataka is one node and Kerala is one more node. So it's below here. So inside that, so there are sub nodes, which is Chikmagaluru and Ballari. So this is how it is. The same data can be represented in XML. So the question could be like, can I convert from JSON to XML? Yes, it's possible. It's very simple. Maybe it's a couple of lines of code. So it is possible. Yes, there are libraries which are available, and then. So either you can use JSON or you can use XML depending on what kind of program you need to write. Okay. So that was about representation of a data of an organized in an organized format, JSON and XML. So we took a real-time example and we looked at how it can be formed. So this data is actually consumed by some programs. So this is not consumed by humans, but it is consumed by programs. Okay. So that is about how it looks like and what are they. Okay. So that was about it. So next, coming to hands-on part, what we'll do is we'll do a small exercise. I'll show you I'll show you how to read the JSON and how to parse it. But at the end of this this session, what the takeaway the takeaway assignment is, what you need to do is you kind of go to this URL, just right click and save that file in a text file called as some district-wise.json file. So file name doesn't matter. So write a program to generate a chief minister's report. For a given state, report must contain number of active cases, number of recovered cases, and number of deceased cases. The challenge here is so there are a lot of districts here. So here I am taking only two. In actual data, there could be like 28 or 30. So depending on whatever the API provides. So there are about 30 districts, and each of the districts, what you should do is you should have variable, three variables actually, which will keep the count of as we parse through. Go to Chikmagaluru and then get this data, and then when you go to the next state, next district, Ballari, you add up these numbers to the previous numbers, and then so on. So we did that exercise already in counting odd numbers shop and even number shop. So similarly, that logic can be used, but here you also need to use multiple for loops. That means nested for loops. So in order to say one first for loop will be used to get the root, and inside that to get the states, and then inside that you get you go to this district data, and inside that you get Chikmagalur. So such things. So that will be nice to do, and you will get a clear idea about how the JSON or XML will do with JSON, how the JSON will be or XML gets consumed by the program. So as a programmer, we should understand the structure of this, and then we write program to consume that data. So that is what we are going to do. So if I just input as Karnataka, then it should calculate the sum of all the cases that are reported in all the districts and sum it up and give this report. Okay, that's a small exercise actually. So once you start writing program, maybe it will take initially it will take maybe some time, maybe a couple of hours. But once you do it for next programs, it gets the time gets exponentially low. That means maybe you take 2 hours today. If you for next program, it takes only maybe 1 hour, because you have already understood how things work, how to use multiple loops and conditions like that. And then it more you program, quicker you can do the programs. Okay, so that was about the assignment. So let us look at how to parse the data. Okay, so I already wrote a small piece of code actually. So when we just wait, state by state. Okay, so what I did was, you'll get an URL. I'll send you that URL. You go to this URL. You just simply put that in this box, URL box. Then right click, and then do just save as. Okay, and save as some JSON dot sorry some data dot JSON. So it will look like, actually it won't be formatted. Actually you can right click and right click in this editor and say, if you do say format document, it will automatically format. Okay, so that is about how to see, how to download the data and keep it in your local system, and then how do you parse this. So this is how we parse it. Okay, so now I have the file name, so I have saved that file as COVID statewise sample.json, and then we saw how we can open the file. So it's just a simple command, so open. So automatically it will open in by default in read mode. So if you just pass file name, it will open and it will give you a file descriptor. It's like as we discussed, it's like first page of any book that you open. Okay, so it's a file descriptor. It points to first character or first section of the file. And then there is a library called as JSON. It is inbuilt library. So you can just import that library. And how do we use libraries? So as we saw, you just either you just Google. If you do not have internet access, what we do is we go to that object, and then we find out what are the operations. For example, I'm importing JSON here, and I can actually see what are the operations and what are the attributes. See, these are all the attributes, and these are all the functions. Okay, so let us see what does load do. Okay, so to do that, you just do JSON dot load, and to read the function, the doc string, you just do doc. So it tells us deserialize file pointer dot reads. So this will take some time to get used to this kind of format. Well, what usually we do is we just search here, such as give a keyword Python. So to set the context for Google, Python, just say JSON load. Okay, from file. Okay. So there will be a lot of examples. So people are already. So these are all very common stuff. So there will be some program. So they explain it. So just read through it. So you will understand that once you do this, once you use that file name and file pointer, if you give to this load, it will give you the data in form of maps. Okay. So that is how maps in the sense dictionary. Okay, so this will be getting converted to dictionary. So same program, I'll try to do it by statements by statement on this, on the interpreter. So uh, this is a file name, this is a file descriptor. Once I get that file name, and then here I have just loaded. So let us see what is the type of this statewise data. What is this actually giving? What is it returning? Okay, so let us use type keyword. Sorry, I paste it again. Type. Let me copy this. Okay, see, this is a dictionary. So once you load that file into JSON library, so you will get it as a dictionary. Say for example, if you want to read something automatically, so you just actually in C, if you have to write, then it's a tedious task. Maybe it takes like 200-300 lines of code to just to parse through all this and then make some sense of out of it. But in Python and when you use libraries, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just use the json.load and just give the file descriptor. It will automatically give you in form of dictionary. So that is the beauty of using libraries. There are libraries for everything in Python, almost everything. So even if you think about natural language processing, machine learning, whatever you can think of, there are libraries in Python. So that is why Python is very popular. Okay, so yesterday I was doing one more class for one more batch. So there we were using some kind of drug and protein matching. So for that there are already libraries available. So if you are doing research, so there are already libraries available which are written by universities and things like that. So you can use that and do your make use of that, and it will be easier for you actually. So there were some people who want to look up the research papers that are released, so now and then. So instead of going manually and looking up things, what you can do is you can use some libraries for web scraping, and you can simply write a program to poll some data every day and get headlines of that. And if you are interested, if there are new papers published in your subject, you can simply go and grab that and download it and store it for your own purpose. So such things can be easily automated. Okay, so libraries are very useful. So these are the examples. Now we have loaded the file into JSON, and we got in form of dictionaries. So now since it's a dictionary, let us look at what are the keys inside the dictionary. Okay, so let us say this is a variable now. So there is a function called as keys inside for a dictionary. So Karnataka and Kerala are two keys. So let us look at the JSON, what it means. Okay, so this is a big dictionary. Okay, this is big dictionary. Inside that there is Karnataka and there is Kerala below. Okay, these are the keys. So inside that there is another dictionary. Okay, let us check that particular. Let us go to that particular entry. That means Karnataka. Okay. Now if you see, let us find out what is the type of this whole thing. That means we are taking a variable. Inside that we are getting a value. Now let us see what is the type of that value. See, that is again a dictionary. That means statewise is a dictionary. Inside that statewise underscore data is a dictionary. Inside that this key and the value of this whole thing is itself a dictionary. That means we are having a dictionary inside a dictionary. Okay, so that dictionary is nothing but, let us see what are the keys inside Karnataka. So keys are simply district data. That means this is the key, another dictionary. So let us similarly we will try to access that value. So that value is nothing but district key is nothing but district data. So that is, it's just like, imagine that we have a big box and inside that there are two smaller boxes, Karnataka and Kerala. inside that each boxes inside Karnataka there is another box called as district data. So inside that district data, these are all the this is the value. So let us see what is the type of this. This is getting interesting. um, what is the type of this? This is again a dictionary. So now we have another dictionary. That means inside district data we have two smaller boxes. Let us see those boxes. What are the keys? These are the names of those boxes. Let us now again get into Chikmagalur. Okay. See, now the Chikmagaluru has again a small dictionary. Now we have the data inside. That means, say if I just simply say, confirmed is 81. So if I simply say confirmed is 81, so the program that is trying to make some sense out of it, it won't know where does this confirmed belong to. It doesn't know it belongs to this particular district. It is simply just a number. So it cannot make any sense out of it. So if we have hierarchical structure, now I can easily, now these are called instances. So this is Karnataka is one instance because it's an object. So this is another instance of district. So there are, I can send multiple instances easily and in a very in a manageable format. Okay, so that is why this JSON is used. So now I have actually data. Now let us see what is the type of this. This is again a dictionary because inside Chikmagaluru there is this box, and inside this box, now let us try to get confirmed cases. Confirmed cases. Now I am getting this value. Okay. Now let us see what is the type of this. See, type of this is integer. This is not a map. That means now the program you have to write to first look at all the data inside inside the states. I will show you how to do that, and then district data, and finally you need to reach until the confirmed level. That means you have level 1, level 2, level 3, and then at level 4 you have actual data. Okay, so that is how you need to parse the data, and this is for human visualization. Now we have done, you have taken only one. So now for our example, where we need to just sum up all these three information, that is active, confirmed, and deceased. So I will need to sum up this plus this in Ballari. So there are like 30 states. Now I have, for example, for simplicity I have taken only 2 districts. Okay, now let us go to the program. How do we we saw how we loaded it. Now let us see how do we run through it, in the sense how do we get those objects and how do we get these numbers. Okay, I will just simply try to print the numbers. The sum part I leave it to you, how to make sum and use count. Okay, so at state-wise data, what we have is a big box. Okay, that big box is a state-wise data. Now I need to look inside this box. There is a function called as items. Okay, you can actually get the key as well as value. Okay, let us try to do this. I'll exit out of interpreter. Now let us try to see what it prints. Okay, Python COVID stats. Okay, see, so this print is coming from here. So I'm simply dumping just to show you that this is map, and it doesn't have any spaces, and anything that we saw here, it doesn't have any spaces. It's single line. So that is how because for computer it doesn't matter whether it has spaces or not. Okay, this is only for human readable purpose we have formatted. Okay, okay, so now we have printed this. Now the second print that we are seeing here is we are just trying to print the smaller boxes inside the big box. So the state-wise data is a big box. Inside that there are 2 smaller boxes. So I'm using loop because there are multiple instances. There is Karnataka, there is Kerala, and when you actually download, there could be a lot of states. you have Andaman Nicobar, you have a lot of all the states. You have all the states. Okay, this is actually unofficial. This is, I think, some NGO is doing this job. So this is unofficial count of COVID data. So it is providing an API for other apps and things like other programmers to use it and make some data out of it. I will give you some interesting ideas to do some stuff out of this, but let us try to focus on this for now. So we just looped into two different boxes. It's like you open a box and you found that there are two boxes. So how do I further go into other boxes? So I need to put a nested instead of key and value. What I'll do is I'll use variables, um, state, and say what can I use, district data. District data. Okay, that is because I'm just to this is states and this is district data, so these two will be key and this is the value. Okay, so just to realize that I'm just giving two different variables. Okay, so I'm going to print instead of key. Now I'm using state. Okay, what I'll use is I'll say state and print the state. And now I'm going to, since this state is itself a dictionary, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say dist. Okay, let us of in state dot items will return two values, that is key and value. Okay, actually you can use just keys also, that is also fine, because you're just iterating through it. So for dist items, dist, and what is inside, you have dist for in dist and dist value. Okay, this is just, they are just variables. Okay, so let us try to print and understand what it actually contains. Okay, so I will print dist and dist. I'm simply trying to print this. So you need to kind of incrementally build the program. So I'm not writing entire program. What I'm doing is I'm trying to incrementally build the program. So my idea is to this particular piece of code should actually go through all the states and go through all the districts and just print those district names. So that is my intention. Let us see what it does. String item has no attributes. Okay, so let us try to debug this. String dot items state state strict data. Okay, this is a key. Instead of this key, what I should actually do with value, because value is a dictionary. So district data is the right dictionary. So this kind of problems will face. For example, you want to realize that you are using a key here. This is actually dictionary. So the format is key and value. So I actually should iterate through the value, because value is itself a dictionary. Okay, so let us change that. So these are all called trace exceptions. We will learn in tomorrow's class. But so okay, let us say run it. Okay, see, now it's nice. Okay, now what I have printed from this level, Karnataka, and second level I have printed. So it is not actually a district name, it is just a district data. Okay, now I need to modify my program, district and district value. Okay, so now this is again a dictionary, because now we have two. First box we have opened and we have seen the states. Second box we have opened and we have seen that it is another box. Instead of districts, it has district data as another temporary box. So that temporary box is what is printed here. So now again what I'll do is I'll put another loop for I need to loop through not the key but the value, because value is a dictionary. Okay, so now let us say district name, um, and some district value, some variables. Okay, in I'm trying to loop it. So this is the sub dictionary. So I'll go here and I'll just print what is the district name. District name. Okay. Now I can see what is the district. This automatically gives you suggestions that what are the variables that you have already typed. So that is one of the. So let us see how it prints. Too many values. Okay, what is too many values? Okay, because I have not used the function, I have to use a function which returns. If I simply put this value, it will simply dump the whole map, and that is why it led to a problem. Okay. Now we have to use the function to get the items. Now let us see what is happening. Okay, great. Now what we are doing is, now we got the state, we got the districts, another small box which is district data. Inside that we got two small boxes, Chikmagaluru and Ballari, and then again it goes to the beginning loop. Once you finish one state, next loop again it will go to the next state, and it will automatically print the same expected stuff. Okay, so this is how we are trying to loop. So let us try to get into the final data. So for say now, usually when you're writing programs, you'll forget things. So you go back to things. So now I have printed this, I have printed this, I have printed, I have reached till here. Now I need to find out this stuff. So let me, the whole thing is dictionary, so I need to parse this stuff. So how do I do that? So d value is nothing but this highlighted thing. Okay, so that is again a dictionary. So now I have the key and value. So I am looping through d underscore val dot items. Okay, and then what I'm trying to do is print key. Key is key, and value is value. Okay, so this is just a string, just to print it here. So this is the variable name. Okay, so let us see how it looks now. Okay, great. Okay, now we have printed key and value. Okay, so now we have reached till here. Now this is actually a dictionary. Okay, now because there is a key and there is value. So now let us find out. Now I have got a loop. Now let us try to get that particular value. So now I have I have printed this. Okay, all the values are printed. Now what I should do here is actually maybe at state level you define counters here, count underscore whatever you need, and then you increment the counters because you got keys and values already. So these values are you have multiple values here because this whole thing is a dictionary. This is key and this is value, and also there is key and value. So actually you need to ignore this, you don't need to touch this. You want to parse only these three values. Okay, so for reference what I'm going to do is I'm just copying and just putting it here. Okay, so these are the key. So how do you access keys and values is actually simple. So if key is equal to active, I'm just printing, but you need to use counters and make it add it. Okay, so I'm just taking one example. let us say I'll put it here, and let us say now active. I'm not printing anything here, so I just try to print that particular uh, key and value. Instead of keys, I'm actually printing the. Now you can see that active case is 45 in Idukki. So let us verify the data. Let us go to Idukki, Kerala, Idukki. Yes, active cases are 45. That means we are doing the right way to parse the data. So we have what we have done is we have seen this data, and now programmatically I need to parse it and then do make some sense out of it. So there are so many levels you can parse through all these levels, and you are getting the particular value, and here you can maybe increment your counters. Okay, so for every there are since we need to find out three values, that is active, confirmed and deceased. So you need to write program to uh, if key is equal to this, then do this, then do this, then this. There are other ways also. For example, we can directly access dictionary values such as like dval active directly here. So that is another way to do it. So because in programming we always have multiple ways to do it. So instead of parsing it here, you can actually directly uh, use directly here. For example, I can use mm, dval and access directly active. Okay. Okay, small lab. So if you try to access any data which is not there, it will give a key error. So which we will see in next class about what it means and how to handle those. Okay, now it's actually working. In district name, active cases, just to differentiate. Let's see. Print district name. Okay, here, district name, active cases, and you can print active cases. So where does this belong to? You can see, okay, this is district data, and you can try to figure out how it is done. So either you can do it like this, so or you can directly access keys like this. But the idea is simple. So you have a nested data, and you're trying to parse through it. Okay. So this is how this is the usage of for loops, nested for loops, and it will be nice and challenging to do this. Once you do this, there are actually shortcuts to do this, which you will find out, or I will show you in while we are doing some future tasks. But this is how the whole thing is meant to be read by program. So once you understand this structure as a programmer, you do this, and once you finish this code, maybe you take input as Karnataka, or input as from user input. As we saw in previous class, we can take input from user directly, and then you can pass that thing to as a variable, something like state name is equal to input. If you use this, then you take that state name as input, and maybe instead of using that, you directly, if state is equal to that variable, print that. So whatever your state you input, that particular statistics will be displayed. So you just need to display three lines: number of active cases, number of record cases, number of disease cases. So that is the task. Okay. So any questions so far? So that was all I had to show you and present. Any questions regarding basics of data interchange formats, or any kind of programming questions so far?